Okay, so let's look at question 2, which is November 2015, and it was testing the ethical standards around our professional conduct. Okay, so it's a direct question, and like I said earlier, I'm not sure in this dispensation is going to come this way, but by way of reading and understanding the concepts for application, we could give this question proper context. So A said, or the requirement for A, the examiner said, we should analyze and evaluate any 4 fundamental principles of ethical standards as provided in the ICAN Code of Professional Conduct for Accountants, 8 marks. Then the B part said, we should outline the penalties for a member's unethical behavior, outline, 4 marks. And the C part said, outline the powers available to the Institute to enforce the ethical standards, 8 marks. So this could be presented in a scenario, the current dispensation. So we have a 20-mark question, and in writing this kind of question, whether it's direct or case study, we need to take note of the command word, like I said, command words like explain, but in this situation, we are commanded to analyze, then evaluate. So in analyzing and evaluating, looking at the solution, we need to provide a brief explanation, almost the same thing with explanation. Provide an explanation in 1 or 2 sentences for each of those principles, not just to list them. You need to provide explanation. So if it's a case study, you need to apply it to the scenario where it's expressly stated. So there are some case study questions that may come without any alignment with the case. So take note and read in between the lines to be able to understand what the examiner wants. So read in between the lines of his request. So in this kind of question, the part A, to earn full marks, you need to state the principle, then explain clearly what it means in a professional context. So like UK said, an example will suffice. Even though speaking to this integrity said, a chartered accountant should be straightforward and honest in all professional and business dealing. Integrity implies not merely being honest, but fair dealing and truthfulness. Even though no example was provided, it may provide professional context if you provide an example, but don't be too long so that you don't waste time. Be very time conscious. Then 5 of them will suffice. 5 of them will suffice. So a member should conduct himself with courtesy, okay, an additional, okay, that's to professional behavior, yeah. All right, so for the B part, the command word is for us to outline. It's not to evaluate and analyze, outline. So outline means to list, just means to list. So it's a less detailed request than analyze. Outline is a less detailed request. So it carries 4 marks. So don't waste your time explaining, please. Be time conscious. The solution, you will see that, let's see the solution. Okay, the solution provides or responds with using bullet points to list those penalties. It shows that it's relatively direct. So just directly list is sufficient. When you just list is sufficient and efficient or effective for this type of question. Your listing is okay. It's exactly what it means to outline. All right, then the last one also says outline, and this is 8 marks. Wow, outline, okay? So it's similar to the B part. And we'll also look at the marking key. Let's look at the marking key. Okay. All right, 2 marks for each. Okay. So like the solution provides a brief explanation of each powers. I noticed from the solution, each powers of the institute. Okay. So 2 marks for each. They are not much, so we cannot provide 8. So 2 marks for each. And don't forget, these kind of questions are not directly from the ICAN study text. They are in the ICAN Code of Ethics. So we are expected to also read the ICAN Code of Ethics for this examination preparation. This kind of question is not in the study text, so take note of that. If you look for this enforcement of ethical standards, you won't see it in the study text. So it's in the ICAN Code of Ethics. Take note of it. So this solution provides a brief explanation of each power which justifies the higher mark location. So to earn the mark, students must outline the power and briefly elaborate on its functions. So power such as derived from the ICAN Act and the role of the investigating panel is provided the accountant's disciplinary tribunal. Okay, so generally, our strategies around answering such questions should be to follow command words, please. Pay close attention to those action verbs: outline, analyze, explain, evaluate. That's the first thing. Take note of them. It dictates the level of detail required. So like outline, like we said, is just to list key points, but analyze requires more explanation and development of those points. So those are our general strategies in writing, because how you write really matter. So use bullet points as demonstrated in the solution. Just follow that roadmap. Use bullet points for list of items like penalties or powers. So make the answer clear. Make it easy to read, because it helps the marker quickly identify the correct points and provide your marks for you. Then in providing sufficient detail, you see that the marking guide shows the, let's see, the marking guide. Yeah, the marking guide shows that simply naming a concept is not always enough. So for part A, a full mark requires both stating the principle and describing it. That's what it means to analyze and evaluate. Then for part C, 2 points or 2 marks per point means more than just a single sentence is needed. Exactly. So take note of that. So part A, we have how many marks now? Okay, part A, 8 marks. Okay, so 8 marks available for 4 principles. Each principle is worth 2 marks. There are supposed to be 5 principles, sorry. So 8 marks, worth 2 marks. The marking key breaks this down into 1 mark for stating the principle and 1 mark for development. That's explanation. Okay, so let's make sure we do both. Instead of 10 marks, 8 marks. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and UK confidentiality and professional behavior. Okay, it's supposed to be 10 marks now. Now gave 8 marks. All right, whichever way it is. I think if we state 4 principles, we should be able to earn the 8 marks. If we state 5, it's fine. So 4 or 5 will provide or will suffice. Then for part B, is worth 4 marks and 1 mark for each of any 4 penalties. So we should aim to list at least 4 distinct penalties to get full marks. Listing more than 4 is a safer strategy. Actually, the examiner will just pick your best 4 if you are unsure of any of those points. So list 5 where you are not sure of the 4. How many was provided? Okay, you see where the examiner provided 6. So to be safe, and listing will not take time. So just state more than 4 if you are not sure of those 4. And for the part C is 8 marks too. So with 2 marks for each point outlining the institute's power. And each point should be clear. The clear statements of the power followed with brief elaboration, though it said outline, but there are not much powers. So we may need to go ahead and outline it like this. Outline it like this. That will provide us 8 marks. Okay, so let's read through the solution when we provide it and follow through. And they said the performance was good. So maybe he will not be coming up with such questions because performance was good. Very good. And I don't think candidates should have challenge with such questions. Okay, so any question, any contribution, observation, so that we can move to the next question. Any question? All right, I believe it's clear. The questions are not that tough. All right, so let's look at November 2016. He tested ethical principles and professional conducts. And it reads, as an audit manager in a big audit firm in Nigeria, you are opportune to attend a conference on professional ethics and anti-money laundering in New York On your return, one of the audit seniors went through the presentations and asked questions on some of the statements she noted in the presentation. You are required to explain the following statements to her. A good auditor is an independent auditor, 5 marks. B, an accountant's normal professional duty of confidentiality to clients is not adequate or is not an adequate defense where money laundering is involved, 5 marks. Okay, it's not the full question. I think the other parts did not test ethical principles or professional conduct. All right. So that's another question for us, ladies and gentlemen. And it speaks to our professional ethics and professional conduct also. And in observing this, you see that the examiner's report states that candidates' performance. Let me run to the examiner's report. Yes, 85% of candidates, the performance was poor. So take note, the performance was poor. Candidates' pitfall was the poor application of theoretical knowledge and misinterpretation of the question. Okay. Candidates' misinterpretation of the question. A good auditor is an independent auditor. Very simple. There's no explain, there's no evaluate. An accountant, okay, I think that's where they misinterpreted the question. All right. So understanding the question is very key. Let's take note of that. Understanding the question is very key. So it questions the auditor's independence and limitation of confidentiality in cases of money laundering. So that poor application of theoretical knowledge and misinterpretation of the question suggests that a simple recall of definition was not sufficient. So candidates needed to explain the concepts within the context of the scenario. The question requires a more deeper and more conceptual understanding rather than just memorization and pouring down of what you memorized on those principles in paper. Okay, so let's look at the solution and how to answer it. Solution and how to answer it. All right. So in answering this kind of question, the statement, a good auditor is an independent auditor, requires more than just definition of independence because it's a 5-mark question. And if you look at the solution, it effectively explains why independence is crucial for a good auditor by linking it to the purpose of an audit. And what is the purpose of an audit is to enhance user confidence and the auditor's opinion. So the answer breaks down the concept into independence of mind and independence of appearance. Yeah, so look at the answer. Independence of mind and independence of appearance, which is key to demonstrating a comprehensive understanding of a good auditor is an independent auditor. So bringing in that independence of mind and appearance is key. So we need to not just define independence, but explain its importance and also threats to independence. Yes, that should provide us that 5 marks. Yeah, it's not just a mere statement on independence definition. You have to be able to define it, explain briefly the importance and threats to it. Very important. So take note of that, please, in answering such a question, since it had poor performance. And the B part said, an accountant's normal professional duty of confidentiality to clients is not an adequate defense where money laundering is involved. Another 5 marks. Okay. So, in speaking to this question, we need to address that statement that confidentiality is not a defense. We need to first address it. And you see the solution starts with actually defining money laundering. Then it sets the context. And then it explains the general principle of professional confidentiality, looking at the solution. So before it actually highlight That professional confidentiality was provided before highlighting the legal override. So the answer provides a clear and a very concise explanation of the legal duty to report suspicious activities to specific authorities like Nigerian Finance Intelligence Unit or EFCC. And we also have the legal duty to report suspicious activities as accountants, and also the statutory protection afforded to professionals who report in good faith. So take note, and you must demonstrate that you understand the legal duty of reporting issues like this and the professional duty of confidentiality in this specific context that was asked us in the question. Very key. So take note of it. And we need to understand that in strategizing to earn these marks, context is actually key, because the examiner's report highlighted misinterpretation. So it means students should read the prompt carefully and link their answers to the scenario. So read the prompt carefully and link your answers to the scenario, even though this question is not a full case study actually. The introductory paragraph as an audit manager sets that professional tone for us that requires more than just a simple study text answer. So you need to explain the why. And the most common pitfall was poor application of knowledge. And this suggests that candidates define terms without explaining their significance. So for example, for part A, it's not enough to say an auditor must be independent. The answer should explain why this is fundamental to a good auditor. So let's take note of these general strategies. And let's also demonstrate breadth of understanding. The solution for both parts, you see that it shows a range of knowledge. Like part A mentions ISA 200. I was wondering, why did ISA 200 why was the examiner using ISA 200? Because that speaks graphically to the application and also the 5 threats to independence. Then the part B mentions money laundering prohibitions, Act 2011 and EFCC, NFIU, which are the reporting, specific reporting bodies. So it includes all details. And when we include these details, it shows a strong grasp of the subject and help us to secure those marks, 10 marks, very seamlessly. So take note of it in our answering such a question. And this roadmap will help us to read and look at the marking guide. It's very good. And these are nitty-gritties. When you are reading, you're answering questions, take note of these things, and they will help you graphically to answer such questions. All right. Any question, contribution? It's that simple, so I'm not really getting feedback. I'm sure it's very simple for us. When we see such questions, we'll crunch them. But then let's be careful and not over or underestimate such questions. Yeah, they don't look technical, but then we need to apply safeguards, especially in looking at the prompts, looking at the command words, how to answer them. Please take note of them so that no matter how easy they look, we will not lose marks in answering them. So take note of that. Okay, so any question, contribution, observation? So that we can move to the next question. The next question is quite pepperish. I was going through it and I was like, this is not in the study text now, but then I expect anything from ICAN. It's not in the study text, but it actually tests professional conduct, auditor's rotation, and all that. So the second question is actually not directly in the study text, but anything can come, especially practicals. So expect anything. It's ICAN exam, so expect anything. Okay, so let's look at the third question, speaking to May 2017, and it tested question 7, the auditor's rotation. And we deliberated mostly. I think someone even asked the question on auditor's rotation, what is the legal number of years and all that. So questions like these are practical and they look pepperish. So let's pay attention to such questions and how to graphically answer them. Okay, so the question reads, the need for auditor rotation has been a topic of discussion following various major corporate failures in recent years. So the CBN in 2006 introduced mandatory audit rotation as part of effective corporate governance of banks in Nigeria. The board of Aluwo, Bank PLC has complied with this policy and are now reviewing its implementation. Some of the directors are not clear about the form that auditor's rotation takes. While some have argued in favor of the CBN policy on audit rotation, others are against it, claiming it has not achieved the desired objective. So we're required to draft a memo to the board of Aluwo Bank PLC, which sets out clearly A, 2 different suggestions about how auditor rotation should be achieved, 5 marks. B, arguments in favor of auditor rotation. C, arguments against audit firm rotation. Sorry, B states argument in favor of audit firm rotation. C, arguments against audit firm rotation. 15 marks. Wow. Okay, so let's see the examiner's report, what I guess is poor performance. It must be. I guess that's much. So the question, almost all the candidates had, but the performance was poor. I'm very sure, because it's not in the study text. It's not a direct question. It's indirect, it's implied, and it's a current, at that time, it was a current issue. So even now, it's still an issue, auditor rotation. Okay. So it's a question, and the scenario tests, or the task is that we should speak to this key corporate governance issue. And it also tests our understanding of auditor rotation. It requires that we take on the role of the audit manager and draft a memo to the board of directors. And you can see the performance was poor because people were unable to distinguish between, I think, the arguments for or against auditor rotation. Speaking to, I think, the disadvantages and the disadvantages and advantages. And it highlights the importance of just not knowing.
I think current issues.
It's also a current issue, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you. So it's not just you see that the examiner's report, he is not really speaking to knowing the concepts, but being able to categorize and present them correctly with that required format, memo format, writing a report. I think that was one of the challenges in that memo. Remember, they said draft a memo. So please take note of these words: draft a memo. You can't just answer. It has to be in a memo format. So take note of that. And I don't think there's any question that addresses how to write memo in the AAA subject. So you have to deduce and understand this way, because not writing through the memo format is like shooting yourself in the leg, disobeying the examiner's instruction. So take note of that. So the part A, speaking to the requirement, or the requirement is to draft a memo and set out clearly. Did you hear that? Draft a memo which sets out clearly. Wow. 2 different suggestions for achieving auditor rotation. So let's look at the solution now. Let's look at the solution. Okay. The solution, you see that it correctly identifies the 2 main types: audit partner rotation, then the audit firm rotation. Yes, so take note of it: the audit partner rotation and the audit firm rotation. So to earn full marks, we should not just only name them, but also provide a concise explanation of each method and how it works. You see that in the solution. Look at that in the solution and how it works. You see it. Yeah. Okay. So take note of it in reading. So it's a 5-mark question. The A part is a 5-mark question. So the memo formatting has 1 mark. 1 mark is allocated for the proper memo format and conclusion. So this is a simple but essential point to remember, because if you lose the 1 mark, you may get the examiner angry by not providing that memo format, because it's 1 mark. And some may just decide to mark you down, not even read what you did. Some examiners can be that itchy. So a total of 3 marks are available for this session. And the marking key allocates 1 mark for mentioning a suggestion and 1 mark for developing it. And there are 2 suggestions required. So for that 1.5 mark for each point or a different allocation, the key takeaway is name it and also explain it, which is very necessary. Take note of that for the A part of the question. So name it, then explain it. So we have A, then we have the audit partner rotation 1 and the audit firm rotation. Whichever way you want to name it, please put it in proper context. Present your answers clearly like this so that you can pick your marks seamlessly. All right, so let's look at the B part. The B part says arguments in favor of audit firm rotation. We have 4 marks. So this part asks for arguments in favor of the audit firm rotation. So you see that the solution provides 2 strong points. 2 strong points. And the points are limiting overfamiliarity and improving public perception of independence. So the wording in favor of is crucial. And we should provide distinct points that argue for the benefits of changing the entire audit firm. That's what we should do. The solution, if you read that, provides a clear roadmap on how to answer that. And from the marking key, the 4 marks available for arguments in favor, 2 marks for each of those arguments. And it reinforces the need for a clear and well-explained point for each argument. That should give you that 4 marks seamlessly. Then the C part, arguments against audit firm rotation. Arguments against. So this part requires argument against the firm's rotation or the audit firm. And we have how many now from the solution? We have about 4 points. So for a 6-mark question, 1.5 mark for each, okay? And this includes negative effects. So that argument against is negative effects on audit quality, the cost of changing auditors, and the lack of empirical evidence for its effectiveness. And you see that the examiner's report indicates that this was a major point of failure for students. So we must be careful to present arguments that are explicitly against the practice. This is very, very important. So a total of 6 marks, 1.5 mark for each of those arguments. Again, it shows that each point should be distinct and provide some details to earn these full marks. It's also a good reminder for us that listing more than the minimum required can be a good strategy to ensure you hit the target and your best pick. So instead of listing 4 or explaining 4, you can explain 6 and your best 4 will be picked. So if you have time and you're fast in writing, you can just provide such above amount of points so that you can maximize your chances of getting the marks. All right, so that's the C aspect. Then there was a conclusion and a sign off. So memos should follow this format, please. Don't just write sporadically, follow the instruction. So generally, the strategies for earning these marks are master the memo format. I don't think it should be a problem by now because the question specifically asks for a memo. So marks are awarded for proper formatting, the date, to who you are addressing it to, from, conclusion and closing, and sign off or sign out. So failing to use this format will lead to a loss of marks. As a matter of fact, some examiners are impatient. Once they see that you don't follow the first instruction, instead of penalizing you with 1 mark, they just mark you haphazardly. So please take note of it and follow the format, because how you start that question matters if you gain the examiner's attention. He has a lot of scripts to mark anyway, and that's why some people will be offended. We thought I wrote. How come I'm scoring such marks? It could be these little offenses. So please take note of it in writing. This memo format is not something that is taught in the AAA subject expressly. It's something they expect you from practice, from experience to be able to bring to bear in addressing some of these things. So there's no topic in the case study on in the AAA text on how to write a memo. There's nothing like that. So you are expected maybe from case study or for professional practice to be able to answer and write such question. So your points may be okay, but because you didn't follow that instruction on the memo format, you may just lose marks. And that's how it is for several areas. So in categorizing your arguments, the biggest pitfall, according to what the examiner said, was mixing up the arguments for or against. So we need to create a mental and quick note distinction between the sets of two arguments before writing our answers, understanding advantages, disadvantages, merits, demerits very clearly. Excuse me. Also provide sufficient detail. You see that from the marking guide. It shows that a simple list is not enough for especially part A. So marks are given for mentioning and developing that point. And for part B and C, you see that the mark allocated per point indicates that some explanation is needed beyond a single wording. So generally, the memo format, your arguments, and sufficient detail to earn how many marks is it total? 15 marks will suffice practically. So let's take note of this very powerful nitty-gritties to be able to earn and maximize our marks practically. Okay, so any question? Have you spoken to this? Any question? Please,
hello,
contribution. Sir? Yes, please. AA, go ahead. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, sir, I just want to clarify something on this memo format. You know, I'm trying to see, is it that, for instance, looking at date, to, fro, from, and the subject. Yes. If, for instance, you use dates, from, to, subjects, hope is not that we are not following it, because there are some ways that some people can just say that, okay, from should be I should be the one that should come first, something like that. So I'm just trying to see, is that kind of format still fine? So far is still in that internal memo landscape, basically.
Exactly. Very good note. You have eye for details. I like that. I've never taken note of that because normally I tutor AAA. Yes, please go ahead.
That's the memo structuring depends on who you are writing to, and the position of who you are writing to, and your position. Let me explain. If you are an audit trainee reporting to your supervisor or writing to your supervisor, right? The two comes first. The person you are referring to comes first because he's your superior.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Then the from takes after the two. But if you are responding to somebody who is your subordinate, right? Let's say a supervisor or a practitioner responding to a mail or a message from an audit trainee, the from comes first.
Okay.
Before the two. Okay. I don't know. That is what we practice in my office. So it depends on the nomenclature of who is writing and who you are responding to.
Oh, thank you very much for that clarity. I've never experienced or had it in that way. Thank you so much. But in addressing AA's question, the date actually comes first. I think that should be clear on such memos. Then to and from. So whichever way it is, for to from this context, UK has provided, that means to the board of directors should come first because they sound more superior from your explanation than from below. But I don't think you should be penalized under exam condition if you put from first and to below. I don't think so. As long as that clear delineation is provided to and from. So whichever comes first under exam condition, I don't think that should get you any penalty in answering A's question. Yeah, so having those inputs to and from, whichever comes first or second, shouldn't be an issue. Just have them provided. The most important thing is let the memo be there. The subject, the date, to and from. But I would suggest you start with actually date, then the subject should come last, just like we type mails in our office. Let it follow that format, and that will suffice. The most thing is providing this same format and following the instruction, not just juxtaposing which one is to and from. That shouldn't be an issue in marking, so it's not a problem. But thank you, UK, for that clarity. I really understand it in the hierarchy of superior and subordinate. Yes, please.
Can I interject?
Yes, please, interject freely. Yes, please. Okay, Hassan, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, I heard you saying on the points, if the examiner asks for like 3 points or 4 points, if I don't know whether you said it's okay for you to provide either 5 or 6 points if you can be able to provide. I don't know if I didn't get that part actually, so that is why I'm trying to find out if that is okay.
Okay, yes. So I was saying that in areas of listing, when a question speaks to listing, and maybe they said list 4. So if you are unsure of the 4, I suggested you list 6. It's a good strategy because what examiners do is they read through and give you your best 4. And it's just, the goal is just to maximize your marks. So if you can explain under exam condition, which is advised, it's advised against because you don't have time. If you hit the nail on the head, move. If they say 4, explain the 4. But if you can go more than that, your best points is what is marked for you. That's what I'm saying. So yes.
I don't know if where they clearly mentioned that you should maybe list 4 and you listed like 6. Wouldn't that be amounted to flouting the rules of the examiner?
No, it won't be.
Would you be penalized for doing that?
No, you won't be penalized because if you look at the examiner's report, he provides you more than that. So if you write, I watched an ACCA marking, and Sean Paul is an SBL marker. ICAN will not show you all these nitty-gritty, so we use what professionals do outside the country. So Sean Paul is an ACCA marker, and he was marking to show how, just to help students see how marks are awarded. So there's this guy that wrote more than enough points. And in CBE marking, computer-based exam marking, you click to mark. You don't mark on screen, so you click. So he was trying to give the guy the required points. And as he was reading the guy's thoughts, man, I think it was a 5-mark question, and the guy gave like 8. So he kept ticking. When he got to the 5th point, the computer said, bam, bam, maximum marks awarded. So he read the 8 thoughts and he was like, man, this guy did well. So he explained that that's what happened under exam condition. If you give more than, you will pick the best 5. So for us that do on-screen marking here in this part of the world, it's not computer-based yet. Your thoughts will be read and they'll be best to be given. It's just that you may not have the time to provide that, but no, you won't be penalized. In answering that question, you'll be penalized. Your best that will be picked to give you the mark. Yeah. Globally, it's like that. So don't fear. If you have time, write. If you don't have, just provide based on the examiner's instruction and move on. I hope you're okay with that.
Very okay.
All right. Okay, so AA, is your question addressed? Are you okay with that? To and from, there's no issue. Okay, fantastic. Okay, let's look at one more question. We have 7 more minutes, then we'll close. Let's look at one more question. We'll continue in the next class. I think one more should suffice. Let's look at one more question. Okay, so that will be May 2018, and he tested rules of professional conduct. A bit of a case study, but very short. So he said you are the HR partner. Wow, you are even HR now. Okay. HR partner in Ekemode and company chartered accountants as part of continuous professional training. Continuous training program for your firm. You are to organize an in-house seminar to educate the staff of your firm on rules of professional conduct. You've decided to emphasize the IFAC Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, published by the IASBA, recently adopted by ICAN, into their localized code called the Professional Code of Conduct and Guide for Members. A. Explain briefly the 5 fundamental principles of the IFAC Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, 7.5 marks. B. Explain independence of mind and independence of appearance to the staff, another 5 marks. So 7.5, then 5 marks. And C. Explain briefly 3 general sources of threat to the fundamental principles of the IFAC Codes of Ethics for Professional Accountants, 7.5 marks. So we have a 20-mark question. Now, I love strategizing to go and look at the examiner's report. So when you are reading, please, it's good you finish reading a subject, just go and before answering the question or before looking at the answer, if you answered it, just go and look at the examiner's report. Examiner, okay. The question test candidates' knowledge on IFAC's Code of Ethics. Good, 95%. And that means people did well. Okay, fantastic. All right. So the question tests the knowledge of IFAC, which ICAN is our normal code of ethics. So the scenario says our realistic role is HR partner, tasked with conducting a training seminar. So this good performance shows that the topics covered were fundamental and well understood by students. And it's actually a direct test of theoretical knowledge, but it was framed actually in a practical context. Okay, so I think it's not a hard question, but let's speak to the answers very briefly. So look at the command word, don't forget, is explain briefly. So the question asks for the 5 fundamental principles, and the solution is clear. Concise definition for each, which is the correct way to respond. So we are to aim to identify the 5 principles and then provide like a 1 or 2 sentence explanation for each to earn the full marks. So there's even technical standard, really. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That technical standard speaks to professional behavior. All right. Technical standard, professional behavior. Okay. So if you look at the answer, it's clear. It's clear. So if it comes in a more stringent case study, you'll be able to apply. If you understand the concepts, just understand how to apply the practicals. Then the B part says explain. It's still 3 of them, in fact, said explain. So take note of the command word. So explanation of independence of mind and independence of appearance. And those 2 concepts, we need to do that effectively. So independence of mind, don't forget, is a psychological state. And the independence of mind relates to how a third party will perceive the auditor's independence. I think it was Keller that said how you are viewed from outside, not inside. I remembered his explanation in one of those classes. So this distinction is crucial for a complete answer. So independence of mind cannot be seen, but independence of appearance can be seen. And the auditor must have both clearly. So in explaining this answer, please provide that clearly for you to earn the mark. And for the CA aspects, I think it's also explained briefly. So it asks for 3 general sources of threats. And we all know the threats: self-interest, review, advocacy, independence, intimidation, and familiarity. We spoke extensively, we are engaged on that, and we need to explain it. So we need to choose any of the 3 of these and provide a brief explanation of how each one could compromise an accountant's or an auditor's fundamental principle. So generally in earning the marks, you need to look at recalling versus application. So the question is more about recall than application, but the scenario of a training seminar is a helpful prompt to maybe apply it a bit. So students should, or candidates writing should remember that they are explaining this concept to colleagues, a bit of application. So their language should be more clear and Your language should be clear and professional because you are explaining it to colleagues based on your instruction. So structure your answers. Use a clear structure for each part. So for part A, a numbered or bullet list of the 5 principles before explanation is okay. And B, a paragraph for each concept or a clear definition between them. It works well. Then for C, another numbered or bullet list of the 3 chosen threats. Each with a brief explanation is the most, I think, efficient way to answer this question. Then your breadth of knowledge is important. Even though part C only requires 3 threats, knowing all full 5 provides a safety net. So the solution correctly lists 5, you will see, which demonstrate a thorough understanding of the topic. Like Hassan asked, won't you be penalized? No. You're just showing, and your best 3, you just be giving your mark, your marks. How many marks were there, Seth? Your marks very seamlessly if you provide the 5. Okay, 7. Briefly, okay, he said briefly explain 3. Of course, 3 of them are conspicuous. If you give 3, it's clear. You are not doubting whether you know some or not. Though in that other exam condition, it could happen. So, but if you give 5, it's a strategy. But then you can't be marked more than 7.5. It's just that you earn the maximum marks, and it demonstrates your understanding of the concept. So part A is 7.5 marks, 0.5 marks for each of the principles listed, then 1 mark for explanation. So it means you both name and explain the principles to earn the full 7.5 marks for the A part. Then for the B part, is what 5 marks allocating. Yes, it was 5 marks allocating 2.5 marks for the explanation of independence of mind and 2.5 for explanation of independence of appearance. So a good explanation or a good answer must provide a clear and distinct explanation of both those concepts. Then the part C is 7.5 marks, and the mark guides, you see that it allocates 2.5 marks for each, 3 threats, and explanation 5 marks. So it reinforces that a brief explanation is necessary for each point to receive the full credits from the examiner. All right, I think they are fairly simple questions in my opinion. If they come as case studies, we should be able to address it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll stop here. Any questions, contributions, and observations so we can close? We'll continue the remaining from November 2018. Most of them have few questions and they are direct. But from, I think, 2000, they were more application-based. So we'll look at them in the next class so that we can run chapter 4, chapter 5. We need to run faster so that we can cover up. So any questions, any contributions, observations, so that we can close and go and rest for the night?